It's 20 years since Princess Diana died. I remember the hysteria at that time and the genuine sadness. 2 decades later, what does it mean when an icon dies? And what do our idols and icons do for us? Here's some true news.
The public can't pick their queen or king, but they did choose Diana. And wherever she went, the cameras of the world followed. And when her marriage to Prince Charles eventually fell apart, her unprecedented openness about its failure was both unusual and embraced by the British public.
I suppose Diana was always an extraordinary figure because the institution of the monarchy, like what's the stated purpose of the monarchy is, I suppose, is figureheads for our national identity. Like, she is the head of state, the Queen of England. So it's sort of a family for us to all say, yes, that's what England's supposed to be. And in a time where I suppose media was changing, celebrity was changing, there were a lot of different magazines. Diana was perfect because she was beautiful, she was photogenic, and she had a kind of accessibility. I remember at the time people going, because she was a commoner. She wasn't actually a commoner. She was like an aristocrat, but she's a beautiful aristocrat that's accessible. And many other members of the royal family built their identity around a certain kind of neutrality. The Queen, you don't know what she thinks about anything except she likes dogs and horses. That's about it, isn't it, really? But Diana, with those great big limpid blue eyes peering up over that doctor's mask, you sort of think, oh my God, this is a beautiful human being. She's like us, but a more beautiful version of us.
But ultimately, even Diana couldn't control her own fame. In August 1997, while speeding away from a pack of paparazzi, her driver, later found to be drunk, crashed in a tunnel in Paris.
An icon exists for us. We project our feelings and our aspirations onto an icon. Diana was a perfect one for that time because she had fragility, frailty, beauty, magnificence, munificence. All these things were sort of present in her. But also she was deeply flawed, obviously. It seems like there was infidelity in the marriage on both sides, that she was a person that had a certain kind of egotism, but she was appealing. She was perfect for that time. In the end, though, curiously, like, I'm not talking about in literal and legal or medical terms, but I'm talking in symbolically, she was sacrificed for her role. The fame itself somehow consumed her. That's why I think there's a lot of theories around her death. I think that I saw on the front page of a popular British tabloid today, Paul Burrell, her former butler, saying, was there a conspiracy? There will be continual conspiracies because there is so much tied up in her. Like the O.J. Simpson case, really. Once in a while cases come around where there's so much data being held, so much projection, so much information that it sort of throbs with a kind of a potency that belongs to all of us, really. It's not really about the event itself, it's about the projection. And her deaths had a beautiful symbolism, or an apposite, if not beautiful, symbolism to it, in that chased by a pack of paparazzi while going out with another man, she met her demise in a tunnel of all places, underneath the earth in flashes of light. So, like, all the while things happen on a material, mundane and practical level, we're looking for symbolism in it. And if you go, oh, you're reading too much into it, then the monarchy is a living symbol. They're not actually any different from us, because they wear golden hats and have nice houses and stuff like that. Those things are projections. She's not literally transcendent, but it is this fusion of the ordinary human and our need for God that creates this kind of tension and this kind of friction. The monarchy aren't literally gods. The Queen isn't literally anointed by God. We make a decision inside ourselves that the Queen is different from us. We make a decision inside ourselves that Diana is different from us. But if she'd married somebody else, she wouldn't have been. I knew people for a while that knew her. She was a normal person. The work happens inside our consciousness. That's where the magic happens.
The woman who showed it was okay to be vulnerable couldn't console a grief-stricken world.
I remember that feeling. We all went a bit mad. I went to that bloody shrine and looked at all that sea of cellophane and entangled and oddly tangential offerings. Like, I remember when I went to Bali on holiday and there was like little offerings outside for the gods. I thought, oh, these weird pagans, but we do it. We do it in our own way. You do it, every roadside cyclist crushed leaves, there is a floral tribute left. So when it happens on a national scale, it brings up sort of a national mass level of emotion.
Thousands lined the streets during Diana's funeral. More than 2 billion watched on TV as the young princess walked behind Diana's casket.
People wanted to grab us, to touch us, to hold us. They were shouting, wailing, literally wailing at us.
I suppose the monarchy is a story. It's the story of what Britain is. This is the Queen of England. Her lineage reaches back all this way. The story is not related to reality, because if it was, we would pay more attention to details around national identity during the World Wars, where we had loads of German members of the royal family, and it never bothered anybody because that story wasn't being told then. The story of the marriage of Charles and Diana is obviously like any fraught and complex marriage with infidelity, adultery and difficulty. But she obviously represented something to a nation, and I think it was to do with purity, redemption, transcendence. In many ways, I don't believe in the necessity for a royal family economically and socially. It's against what I believe in, that we're all equal under God. But having means for telling stories is obviously highly effective. Now we live at a time where the King of America is a kind of symbol of rage, impotence, a curious, broken hegemony. We live in a time where Europe, this great and ancient seat of colonial power, is breaking down and asking questions of its role. I think that we have to be careful about the heroes we choose. We have to be careful about the stories that we tell. Once in a while, things like this happen that defy proper explanation but indicate something important, that is to do with our inability to ever be happy with artificial identity. It sort of exposed the idea that Britain wasn't a real thing, that England wasn't a real thing, that the royal family couldn't function in the way that we needed it to, that the symbols, icons and signs we need must relate to our true experience as a human. Diana inadvertently did that. She found herself married into that family. She found herself in that position. Suddenly the glare of celebrity was shone upon her, and somehow, essentially, in perhaps the same way that Elvis did, she meant something at that time. Elvis with his sexuality at a time where a teenage identity was emergent. Diana, I think, is an icon of fragility, of frailty, at a time when national identity was breaking down. At this point, I think what we're seeing is the emergence of a kind of a grotesque new national identity. In a way, we need a new Diana, or certainly we need to harness the feelings that she evoked to give ourselves a different type of story, because the story we're telling ourselves at the moment is one that runs contrary to our own safety as individuals, nations and a planet. That is some complex analysis on True News.